like and subscribe. Game developers, what is something gamers on the internet always claim to be easy to do or fix, when in reality it's a real pain in the... From experience, those bugs that we have no idea how to reproduce are the worst. People can only give vague descriptions like it just stopped like that, and then you spend hours unsuccessfully trying to have the same issue. Convincing managers something is worth the effort. Those who don't actually make games or know how they are made somehow make all the big decisions. The craft of game design is mostly invisible, despite what all those game design review YouTubers would tell you. Putting a game together is a million microscopic little things that nobody would ever realize. For example, yesterday I added a HUD display for the user's coin count. However, the game has a multiplier feature, so that each coin you collect might actually be worth 2 coins, or 5 coins, or 100, or 43,584 coins. I wanted a nice little thing where instead of the HUD tally changing instantly, it would rapidly count up. So if you got 5 coins you'd see the counter go brrrr, and add all the numbers on one after the other. Except the speed that makes this look nice for 5 coins doesn't work when you just got 463,337 coins. I tested it, and I had to wait over a minute for the HUD counter to catch up to the correct coin tally. Totally unusable. So it has to change the speed that it does the little count up animation based on how many coins you just got. So I wrote some code that dynamically increases the speed of the count up proportionally with larger numbers. That's just for a coin counter that nobody will ever look at twice. No game design YouTuber is going to point that out. No gamer will ever notice. But you'd notice if it was *WRONG****THAT *S* game development. Hackers, Death Inc., Physics, server maintenance, and the unforeseen delays on getting the servers back up on time. Along with any number of reasons this gets delayed, specifically replies to people saying, shouldn't they have tested for this stuff? 1. Optimizing. I use the quotation marks because I feel like most people don't really understand what optimizing is. It's the process where the lorry transforms into the robot. Pretty much everything you can imagine, as even if the change itself is simple, it's constrained by dependent systems and content. If I change jump height, any levels that have already been made with the old height in mind may have to be remade. If I change how crafting works, the inventory system may need a revision. If I add a cover mechanic, all levels must now be updated with cover objects and AI needs to be updated to know what cover and cover objects means. If I add a third-person camera perspective to an FPS, each action that is animated in first person has to be reviewed for how it works in third person. Also the levels have to be updated, because the camera can now exist outside of the player character. If I change the speed at which the player character moves, level streaming may need an adjustment, and if the bottleneck is hardware speed I may need to compromise on audio-visual fidelity instead. If my game uses FMV cutscenes, content design might be forced by what happens in those cutscenes, if it's not in the budget, to render them again as the design changes. Games are houses of cards more often than not. Physics. You import physics. Cars clipping into each other. No. You cries. Adding multiplayer to a single player game. Making a multiplayer game is okay, but adding multiplayer usually involves rewriting **** a lot of code. Not a game dev, but I hear people saying, why don't they switch to X game engine? The new demo looks so pretty. I'm sure that is a simple task, right? /s. What do you mean you can't just switch over to a new game engine? Just copy the code from the old engine and paste it into the new one. / a gamer somewhere, probably. Why not just add an easy mode / hard mode? Yeah, and have to rebalance *every single thing in the entire game a second time. That's no small task, if you want the new mode to not be completely unfun. See, every game where the hard mode just turns the enemies into damage sponges and nothing else. Porting. Player behavior. Getting the stupid player to look at the obvious thing, while simultaneously making them feel like they've accomplished something by looking at the obvious thing. Making design decisions. Every other gamer goes, why can't they just make an open world, sandbox, MMORPG, DMC combat party mechanic, battle royale, but also MOBA with interactive story with moral choices and social links and multiple wayfors and deep world changing decisions, and farming mechanics etc etc. These devs are liar. Every other gamer thinks, just because they can imagine Ito vertical bar hell, not even imagine, just remotely think about smashing 8 of their favorite games together in no particular controlled farsi or no vertical bar. Bug fixing. I'd say probably anything is much more difficult than any gamer realizes. Then again, I'm not a dev, but that's just what I assume. Making the AI not do stupid things. Nobody's really said it yet, but from second-hand experience. Sound. Lots of layers, lots of optimization, lots of *trigonometry asterisk. And when it fails, it's usually very noticeable. And especially so in a competitive game where players often rely on, or respond more quickly to, sound cues. Edit. To extrapolate on this a little bit more, let's use a game like Apex Legends as an example. I have not worked on this game, nor do I work for EA, but other games tackle very similar problems. I just play a lot of Apex. You have 60 players in a lobby. Gun sounds, 27 different kinds so far, and some have different sounds for bullet impacts, footsteps, running/walking/jumping, grenades, environmentals, abilities, jump packs, ziplines, etc. Asterisk and every single one of those sounds is made up of multiple other sounds asterisk. The engine has to adjust the volume of different sound components, so you can tell not only what is happening at a distance, but roughly how far away it is, and also what kind of environment it's happening in, e.g. inside vs outside. Probably most importantly, it needs to indicate the correct direction to the player. In most cases all sounds that are currently playing will play for all players in the game at the same time, just at different volumes, oftentimes 0 volume, so the engine is juggling a lot of sounds all at once. It has to play the sounds on cue, calculate the direction they came from for the player, calculate occlusion/refraction/reflection, attenuate the various sound components as necessary, and finally mix them all together before it gets sent out to your headphones/speakers. That's a lot to keep track of, and a lot that can go wrong. I love how I'm scrolling through the comments and see pretty much every aspect of a game being listed, game designer and game developer commenting and just agreeing XD. For me personally, I work in research and CA right now. And let me tell you, CA is not just sitting around and playing the game. I'm sorry, but the game isn't even remotely finished, and it's not balanced or fun at all just yet. So no, I'm bored af going through the same motion, seeing every bit of the map for the 10th time, trying to find some bugs the programmers have to fix. It's just annoying. Balancing items/weapons/skills in PvP modes. Just because 40 people complain the loudest that a weapon is OP on social media doesn't mean the majority of the community feels the same. Also, when one is testing the balancing within the company before deploying the changes to production, the testers can't be expected to have the same skill level as those out in the wild, so satisfaction will vary. Like juggling chainsaws, and no matter what you do, someone will claim they can do it better than you. There needs to be online multiplayer. It's funny when a cool indie game comes out, and your friends say, wow, they're so dumb for not adding online multiplayer to this, as if it's just a press of a button to do it. It's not often something you can patch in later either, because the entirety of how the game manages state needs to be reworked to support online play. A bit meta, but listening to any type of public opinion/demand and applying it. If your game has any semblance of a community around it, chances are, people are complaining about something no matter what. The whole process of identifying if your game actually have a problem, or if it's just a vocal minority complaining, or even if the thing they complain about that would be extremely problematic to be removed because of the purpose it was implemented in the first place. Identifying the problem. Players usually suggest about a lot of solutions without understanding a thing about how to keep the team's vision, how that logically work, why they are complaining, etc, etc. So we have to find the actual root of the complaints. Worry about budgeting and time constraints. No time to fix that bug that doesn't lock the game. The deadline is approaching. Never gets revisited. If an actual problem is found, and there's money and time to fix it, figure out how, considering all the moving pieces of the game and what experience they are trying to convey. Test the hell out of it. Implement it. It still might still be buggy even with testing. People complain and send death threats anyway. One word: programming. I am not a game developer, but I am a software developer. It is no different if when we're talking about game development, banking software, or a mobile application. Users are ignorant on the work that is involved to make even the smallest change. Once the change is done, there is a whole load of testing and quality assurance to do. That we can tell managers what is right. That we can tell managers what will not work. That we have any control over what information, right or wrong, is given. Any online fixes. Those bugs that are 1/10 of happening. The job in general. Overworked, tired, miserable, and there's no point arguing with your audience. Entitled who think they are owed so much. Sorry, that's just my view. I know a bunch of devs, testers and producers who still love the work and the job. I just fell out of it. The localization of a game. Every time I read people complaining for a bad translation, which 99% of times is just a preference in style, or because they found a misspelling, I cannot help to raise my eyebrows. AAAs have hundreds of thousands of words and text, fear translated, reviewed and carried by multiple people in such a complex process. No matter how many times you review, or pass the spelling tool, there will be always something that slips through the cracks, and an asshole in Twitter will rant about how reading it instead of off ruined his whole gaming experience, and how better he would do the job instead. Honesty, I would say it applies to the majority of game development. I'm constantly baffled by how little even the most well-known critics know. They will occasionally throw in some game-related terminology to seem more knowledgeable, such as a new version of the game has more polys and stuff, but the short answer for me is remasters of games, in which all fairness some remasters are absolutely dire. Think BioShock 1 remaster and Kingdoms of Amalur. Effectively they just rebuilt the lighting and repackage it as a new product. But then you have games like Demon's Souls Remaster, which is essentially a brand new game that unfortunately people on the internet seem to think all the developers have done is turn the graphics dial all the way up to maximum. You've been visited by the ghost of a very important man. Pay your respects by liking and subscribing, and he'll grant you 3 weeks of good luck.